The Galactic Academy's orientation hall hummed with nervous energy as students from 17 different species filed through the biosecurity checkpoint. Commander Vareth stood at the entrance, his crystalline form refracting the station's artificial light into dancing patterns across the walls. In his 3 centuries of teaching, he had processed countless incoming cadets, each bringing carefully vetted companion animals to ease the transition into deep space education. Next, Vareth's translator chirped. A young human woman stepped forward, her dark hair tied back in a practical bun, wearing the standard-issue cadet uniform. Her identification badge read, Nira Solon, Earth, first-year xenobiology track. "Welcome to the Academy, Cadet Solon," Vareth said, his voice carrying the formal warmth required of instructors. "I see you've registered 2 companion animals for dormitory approval. The regulations clearly state that all pets must be gentle, non-aggressive species suitable for communal living. I trust you've brought something appropriate." Nira's lips curved into a smile that made Vareth's crystalline structure vibrate with an unfamiliar sensation, something his species might call unease, though he couldn't explain why. "Absolutely, Commander," she replied, gesturing to the transport carrier beside her. "They're still cubs, very young, completely harmless at this stage." "Excellent. Please present them for inspection." Nira crouched and opened the carrier's mesh door. 2 small forms tumbled out, all paws and playful energy. They were covered in tawny fur with faint spots, their round ears perked forward, and their eyes. Those eyes held an intensity that seemed wrong for such small creatures. "These are from Earth's African continent," Nira explained, scratching one behind the ears as it made a rumbling sound. "Brothers. I've named them Tau and Cayenne." Vareth's sensors analyzed the creatures. Quadrupedal mammals approximately 8 kilograms each, retractable claws, pronounced canine teeth even in juvenile stage, forward-facing eyes indicating predatory nature. His form pulsed red. "Cadet Solon, my scanners indicate these are apex predators." "Well, yes," Nira said, as if this were the most reasonable thing in the galaxy. "They're lion cubs, Panthera leo. But they're babies. Look how gentle they are." As if to emphasize her point, Tau rolled onto his back, paws batting playfully at Cayenne's tail. The other cub pounced, and they tumbled across the floor in what appeared to be a mock battle, complete with tiny growls that Vareth's translator unhelpfully rendered as playful death threats. "Cadet Solon," Vareth said, struggling to maintain his professional composure. "The regulation specifies gentle species. These creatures are biologically engineered to kill prey significantly larger than themselves. But not right now," Nira countered, her smile never wavering. "Right now they're just babies who need socialization and care. The directive says pets must be gentle. Not that they must be gentle species. Tau and Cayenne are currently gentle. That satisfies the requirement." A crowd of students had gathered, watching the exchange with fascination. A Quilxian cadet with her rabbit equivalent pressed against her chest stepped back several feet. A Torthian student's tentacles curled protectively around his bioluminescent fish tank. Vareth accessed the regulation database, his processors working frantically. The human was technically correct. The wording specified behavioral requirements, not taxonomic classifications. It was an oversight no one had considered necessary to address, because what species would deliberately domesticate apex predators? Humans. The answer was humans. Furthermore, Nira continued, warming to her argument, bringing Tau and Cayenne teaches important lessons about xenobiology and interspecies relationships. How many students here will work with dangerous life forms? Understanding predator behavior from a young age builds the exact skills the Academy claims to foster. They will grow, Vareth said, grasping for reason. Significantly. Over several years, yes. By then they'll be fully socialized to station life. And I've already secured extended habitat permits for when they reach maturity. She pulled out a data pad, displaying an impressive array of authorizations, liability waivers, and ecological impact assessments. I've been preparing for this since I applied to the Academy 2 years ago. Vareth realized he was facing something more terrifying than any predator, a human with proper documentation. "Commander," said a voice from behind him. Vice Administrator Kelleth, a Saurian known for her strict adherence to protocol, approached with her distinctive clicking gait. "Is there a problem?" "The human has brought apex predators," Vareth explained. Kelleth examined the cubs, who had momentarily ceased their wrestling to stare at the new arrival with unnerving focus. How efficient? Tell me, Cadet Solon, what do these creatures eat? Primarily synthesized protein at this stage, Nira answered promptly. I have a full nutritional plan approved by the station's dietary commission. No live prey, obviously. That would violate multiple regulations. Obviously, Kelleth repeated, her tone dry. She studied the documentation on Nira's pad, her scaled fingers scrolling through pages of permits. Finally, she looked at Vareth. Everything appears in order, Commander. The regulations have been satisfied. But the spirit of the regulation, Vareth began, is to ensure student well-being and station safety, Kelleth interrupted. This human has demonstrated more thoroughness than 90% of students who bring conventional pets. Unless you can cite a specific violated statute, we proceed with approval. Vareth's form dimmed in resignation. Welcome to the Academy, Cadet Solon, and Tau and Cayenne. Nira's smile widened. Thank you, Commander. You won't regret this. As she gathered her cubs, who had returned to their playful tumbling, and headed toward the dormitories, Vareth watched the other students' reactions. Fear, certainly, but also fascination. Several were already approaching Nira, asking questions, requesting to observe the creatures. Humans, Kelleth said beside him, a note of something like admiration in her voice. They domesticate wolves and call them friends. They keep animals that can kill them as companions, and somehow they make it work. It defies logic, Vareth muttered. No, Kelleth corrected, watching Nira disappear down the corridor with her impossible pets. It defies our logic. That's different. That's why they're here, to teach us what we don't know about the universe. Over the following weeks, Vareth found himself revising the pet regulations 17 times. Each revision somehow made them more specific, yet less able to prevent the next human from arriving with creatures that should terrify trained soldiers but were somehow classified as emotional support animals. But he also noticed something else. Wherever Nira went with Tau and Cayenne, students followed. They learned about predator-prey relationships, about Earth's savage ecosystems, about the bizarre human tendency to befriend death itself. The cubs became the Academy's most effective teaching tools, living examples of life's diversity and humanity's unique relationship with danger. And when Tau and Cayenne began their first formal training session, learning to retrieve, to socialize, to respond to commands, even Vareth had to admit the cubs showed remarkable gentleness. Despite their nature, humans, he concluded, didn't just reach for the stars. They brought their apex predators along for the journey and smiled while doing it. The galaxy would never be the same.